big soul. A big soul. A big soul. A big soul.
Keep playing music. Bonjour. Hello again. Welcome back to the Big Soul podcast, Big Soul, a musical journey. We are here today. I'm here today, Caroline Wampole, with my co-host, Kelleth Chin. Hi, Kelleth.
Hi, Caroline.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I'm excited to talk about Big Soul today.
Oh, good. Well, I'm excited because today we need to talk about something. We kind of ended the last episode on this cliffhanger of selling our CD at shows, and then we were about to move to San Francisco before this big thing was going to happen. But before we get into all of that, we need to roll back the time machine a little bit and go to when we actually wrote the song Brio, a song in French, because many people have said to us, why did you write a song in French? Or they've asked us if we wrote a song specifically because we knew we were going to France. And that is not what happened at all. Because when we wrote this song, we didn't know anything about going to France. We were living in LA. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is why we wrote it, how we wrote it, and what happened next, and how the song started to have a life of its own outside of that we didn't even know about, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So. Yeah. We're rolling back to just the time when we were still playing a lot of those rhythm and blues songs and we hadn't really developed our style yet. What we did not realize was that there was another kind of storyline that had started that we were not even aware of. There was this moment when we wrote that French song, and there's a specific reason for it. We just didn't realize the importance of that event and just like kind of like what was going on that would eventually lead us to France. So we kind of have to roll back to that moment. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of struggling at that moment because we were in between drummers, and we had a new drummer, but he said, I don't really want to do this, but I'll help you out for this one show. And do you remember that show, Caroline? What do you remember about that?
Well, yeah. So it was a Natural Fudge Cafe on in Hollywood in April 1990. And we were, like you said, we were playing with this other drummer. The reason we were playing with another drummer was because one of our drummers got chicken pox before a show. And then the other one, if you recall, went to jail because he hadn't paid his parking tickets, which I guess they could do that.
Normal kind of drummer stuff.
Just normal drummer stuff. And anyway, this guy was very nice playing with us, but it was not a good show, Kelleth. We did not feel at the height of our game. We felt, and when you're not feeling great going on stage, there's a thing where it just infects everything. I mean, it really is the reason a lot of people never go on stage or do public speaking, because it's very humiliating. And I also remember that I think we had a very slim audience, as I recall.
Maybe just one person, our good friend, Art Perez, who was one of our most loyal fans, loyal friends. And I think it was really just Art who was there, maybe a couple of other people. But when we walked into that show, there were actually a lot of people in there. Mm-hmm. And they were like very kind of like, they were dressed in a lot of funky clothes, a lot of beautiful people, but we knew there was, those people were not there for us. It was totally clear. They were not there for us, but there was some kind of like energy that was like brewing in the room. And like you said, like we got on and we did not play well. We made a lot of mistakes. And the audience, they were polite, right? And they just like politely clapped, but they were just waiting for the next band. Right. And this band came on, and I remember they were called Swing, and they went on, and they were kind of like a little bit like Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of vibe, and very good band. And
all guys, very like pumped up.
Very pumped up, very confident, and the audience just like went wild for them. They were literally dancing on the tables, and I mean they were so good. And like when you play with another band, there's always this kind of like unspoken competition that's going on, and you're kind of making mental notes of just like, okay, like who won the night, like who who was the best, even if you don't talk about it out loud.
Right.
And we just got demolished that night. We
I think the word is annihilated, Kelly.
annihilated, yeah, demolished, just flattened. We really fell on our faces like badly.
Yeah.
And it was
sad.
very painful. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
to the point where
what I remember is after the show, we were sitting outside on the sidewalk, or we were standing outside. You were sitting on your bass amp, and you were literally crying. And I don't mean like quiet tears. I mean like you were like sobbing and you were screaming, and you're just like, I hate this city. I hate being in a band. I mean, it was a little bit dark, Caroline.
Sounds about right. But it's true. I did hate LA in many moments, but I think that I think I can safely say that I was expressing the emotions for both of us. It's just they came out, a little more demonstratively.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I did not disagree with you at all. And fortunately, I just remember, it was you and me, and then Art was there, and he was like patting you on the back while you were crying.
But I didn't quit the band, and we didn't stop because.
We went home, and we had it in our minds that we were going to do something about it that next morning. Yeah. And what I remember is just I got out my guitar, and I had like my electric guitar and just plugged it into a little amp, and we said, okay, well, let's figure out like some kind of song that we can write that is going to be different, that's going to turn things around. And we had been very influenced always by the band Talking Heads, and I think we were kind of thinking along those lines, something kind of like high energy, rhythmic,
kind of quirky,
yeah. And so I started playing this like really kind of like fast riff, and just playing it over again, and then just like this kind of like sudden stop, like dun dun, and it just kind of like came into my mind, because I said to you, like, okay, so say something now like in French.
You said throw some French on it.
Throw some French on it. Yeah. Just like whatever I could think of that was just like, the craziest, just thing that I could think of. And you kind of took it from there.
Yeah. I had this sort of lifelong relationship with the French language. So I think one of the reasons you said that was because you knew that I had this sort of French vocabulary in my pocket a little bit. And growing up I had a mother who was a French teacher. I grew up in a very, now that I look back on it, a very Francophile environment. There was French art, French literature, French music, French movies. So it was sort of like in my head culturally, but as an American sort of looking at it. So I had that angle. And I grabbed the first thing I could find, which happened to be, oh, look, I have it right here, Kel. Props. French vocabulary for advanced level, which I had this at New College. So for instance, pop music. So Le Brio was just, was one of the words that was in the pop. There was le blues, le rythme, so it was just kind of just grabbing stuff, which I think a lot of songwriting is, right? You're either grabbing stuff from a source or from the air and, or recycling things. And then what I remember was when we wrote it, it was soon after that we named the band Big Soul. There was that was the beginning of that was one of the beginnings of sort of changing the identity of the band and becoming something different than just a rhythm and blues band.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that we did not really consider that song Le Brio to be like any kind of like commercial song, anything that we didn't put it on our first demo. We didn't put it on our second demo. We just kind of thought of it as like this sort of like performance piece that would get people's attention.
Yeah, it was an outlier. People would say, I remember some of the comments, people would say it's weird. It was really short. It didn't have an actual chorus. It was just kind of had this riff. And so, but some people really liked it. And I do remember Europeans really responding to that song. But you're right. We didn't consider it as one of our top 3 or 4 sort of commercial, what we were using to get a record label.
Not at all. But we did put it on our album, and we talked in the last episode about Dean Chamberlain, who helped us, get a really good sound on our album. And he helped us make a very, very good recording of that song. And that was the version that went on to our album that would later become famous. But it was on our album, and so we were selling that album, and we at one of these shows, apparently at the Whiskey A Go-Go, we sold a CD to a French tourist. That was the version of the CD. That was the CD that eventually made its way to France.
Yeah, we were sort of done after we made that album, and we sent it to hundreds of record companies and managers. We were trying to get a manager at the time. We gave up on LA. So it took a few years from my crying on the bass amp to finally actually say, yeah, you know what, this is not the right place for us. And so in our next episode, we are going to bring us back up to date to the band leaving LA, moving to San Francisco, finding our groove there, and then what happened, how this song Le Brio brought us to France.
Yeah, that's when the story really gets interesting. So I'm looking forward to talking about that in the next episode.
Yep, get ready to go on the road with Big Soul. All right,
everybody. See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye. Branchez les guitares, le brio.